Yo, hope you guys are having a great day. It's time to continue the tutorial. This is how to create your own metahuman, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to build your metahuman's face. So let's go ahead and get into that. So on the left hand side, you're going to see three main categories, three main options on how you can build your character. There's face, hair, and body. I always start from face and go all the way down to body. It is a great order to start in. With face, you have the options of blending, skin, eyes, teeth, and makeup. With hair, you have the option of head, meaning the hair, eyebrows, eyelashes, mustache, and beard. With the body, you can set your proportions, meaning how tall they are, their body weight. Tops, you get a chance to choose clothing, add designs, and change color. Bottoms is the same, and shoes is the same. Let's go ahead and start with blend. You can choose to blend other characters to create different facial features. So it's basically blending three characters into one. Let's go ahead and try it this way, and I'll show you guys how it works. If you do not want to use blend and would like to do it manually, you can click on sculpt and move around the facial feature dots like so. If you're trying to create something truly unique, you can choose to turn off the symmetry. That way, your character can have distinct features. Alright, now that you have a better idea of how to adjust the facial features manually, let's go ahead and check out the blend feature. Now with the blend feature, you are able to go through and choose whichever characters you would like to blend into one. So let's go ahead and experiment a bit. Let's use Vincent, let's use Vivian, let's use Lexi. Now as soon as you add characters to the wheel, you're going to see these dots. Now you'll be able to blend individual facial parts depending on which character you prefer. So for example, if you want her nose to look more like Lexi's, you're going to select the circle and move it up towards the top. See how that changes her features dramatically? You can even make it right in the middle if you like. Well, we're going to go all the way to the top because I kind of like that. That works. If you want her lips to look like Vivian's, you're going to go all the way to where Vivian is. And if you want her eyes to look like Vincent's, well, there you go. I do think those are too small, so let's kind of bring it to the middle, kind of like that. Let's find a really good balance. All right, awesome. Now, what about her eyebrows? Let's do something kind of in the middle. Like that. Now if you want, you can actually add 3 more characters to the wheel. So let's add Natalia, Dory, and Ada. Alright, and as you see, the more you can add, the more you can adjust the facial features. Alright, once you have something you like, you can go ahead and close out of that and take a look at what you created. Alright, so it's looking pretty good so far. However, if you still want to make further adjustments, you can always press Sculpt and continue on adjusting each section one by one. As always, if you feel like you've done a little bit too much, you can always Control Z to go back. Once you're done sculpting, you can go ahead and go to Skin. And here you get a chance to choose the color, the texture, the contrast, and the roughness. You also can add freckles and additional accents to the face, and we'll go through those as well. Let's take off the sculpt mode so that we can see the face entirely before we change anything. So when you start off, the texture is set to a default of 01.316. You can adjust this texture to see the changes in the skin. If you move it to 0, the skin is very, very smooth. If you move it all the way to 1.0, the skin is very rough, unaged, and it's best for your elderly characters. Go ahead and play around with the texture to see what you like best. Alright, now it's time for contrast. So go ahead and play around with the contrast to see what works best for you. Now as you move it around, you're going to see more grays and purples being added to the skin tone. So for example, if it's at 1.0, skin tone is a lot more purplish and gray. This is best for your elderly characters. Let's say you're creating a character that is sickly, and if you bring it all the way down to 0, you're going to see there's no gray or purplish hue in the skin. It's very neutral, and if you want to add just a bit more liveliness to it, you might want to put it at a 0.50. So it's just depending on what you're going for. Alright, roughness here. So it's default set at 0.50, 0.50. You can move that all the way to the end. So if you move it to 0.0, you're going to see the skin and looks very oily, very texturized, and if you choose a 1.0, all that goes away. It's very flat, almost like a very matte type of look. Alright, picking the color. So you can choose any color you like. You can choose the saturation of that color, as well as adjusting the tone. So let's go with something like that, and I think that looks great. Now for freckles, you can change the density, the strength, the saturation, or the tone of the freckles. Now you do have the option of removing all freckles from the skin. If you're going for something a little bit more realistic, you can add a little bit or a lot. I think this character I'm going to not have freckles, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys how these nodules work so you can see what they look like. So with density, if you go all the way to a 1.0, depending on what option you choose, depends on how many freckles will be appearing on the skin. You can think of the strength kind of like contrast. The lesser the number, the less you can see them. The higher the number, the more you could see them. This can be used to create different effects and provide your character their own unique form of beauty. You can then go and adjust the saturation of the freckles, and then of course the tonal shift. So they can go to being a purplish kind of hue as you see here, to a brownish type of look. Go ahead and try out the different default modes. You can see how they change, and you can see the variety. It's really cool. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pick none because I don't want this character to have any freckles. And let's check out accents. So here you can choose accents from the scalp, the forehead, the nose, the under eye, the cheeks, the lips, and the chin. So for cheeks, I'm going to add just a little bit of redness, just a little bit of flesh. You can choose saturation as well as lightness. If you make it really high, it's going to kind of look like makeup. And if you do want to add makeup, it's probably best to save that for when we get to the makeup stage. But it's truly up to you what works best for what you're creating. And you can choose the lightness of the blush, so if you want it to be fairly visible or darkened so that it is very, very easy to see. You can add this to the forehead, the nose, the lips, and even the chin. This is very important when you're working with a variety of skin tones, especially when you want the blood to show through the skin. You want to make sure the character is fully fleshed out and that it looks lively. If you're going for like a doll look, completely lifeless type of look, then you probably would not want to use the accents in this way. There's so much you can do, so this is a great way to add some life to your character. Let's go ahead and move on to eyes. So you have presets whenever you come to eyes, and you can go ahead and play around with those, but you can use whatever you like. Alright, so let's go ahead and check out iris. So with iris, you get a chance to set your base color, your detail color, your blend method, color balance smoothness, your iris size, your iris saturation, and your limbus darkness. There's a ton of varieties here to create custom, unique eyes. You can even pick the pattern. And for this, I do advise you to zoom in really close. So to pick the pattern of the eyes themselves. So you can see that's pretty cool. This is really great if you're using characters for, let's say, cutscenes, movie shots, that type of thing. If you're creating animated movies and you need details in the eyes, this is what you definitely want to use. If the characters are just background characters and they're not going to be that close up, you may not want to go into too much detail for the eyes. It probably won't be that much of a big deal. But when creating animations and you need those close-up shots, this is definitely one of the areas you want to spend some time in getting it right and making it look as perfect as possible. So what we're going to do here, I think I'm going to go with this. You know what, never mind, I'm going to go with this. This looks a little bit more natural to me. And what we're going to do is try different base colors. So you see how that changes? You can play around with the settings to find whatever works best for your character. And once you find what you like, go ahead and go to base color and play around with that as well. Once you found what you like, and I think that looks really good and really natural, you can change the color balance. And what that means is the difference from the base color to the detail color. You can blend it all together so that it just kind of throws itself into one color. Or you can kind of blend it away. You can even choose the color balance, smoothness, depending on what you like. The size of the iris. So if you want them to have really super big eyes, you can go for that. And let's go for something kind of like in the middle like that. The iris saturation. So that's like how prominent you want the base color to be. And then the limbus darkness. Next up is the sclera. So you can choose the tint of the sclera. This is basically the outer whites of the eyes. You can choose how bright you want them to be. And again, this is also a matter of taste, depending on what you are creating and what you want. If you want it to be mostly natural, I would leave it at a 0.50. And then if you want to remove the veins completely, you can go to vascularity and change that to a 0. If you want a more natural look, you might want to add just a little bit, but not too much. And then lastly, you can rotate the veins. Again, you can barely see those. And there you go. You can also change the tint of the outer whites, and you can choose what you want this to apply to, both left or right. So I did apply these changes to both. Let's go ahead and scroll out and see what that looks like. And that's not too bad. I would say maybe the eyes are just a little bit too big. So let's go ahead and go back to iris and make them just a little bit smaller. All right, once you're good with the eyes, let's go ahead and move on to the teeth. All right, so you see a variety of options here. Let's take a look at the drop-down menu. You can change the tooth length, the spacing, the upper shift, the lower shift, the overbite, the overjet. You can make them look worn down, change the polycanines, recede the gums, or even make the mouth or the teeth narrow. So let's go ahead and play with the settings so you guys get a good idea of what they look like. First is the tooth length. So the default is set to 0.0. In fact, you can see that also for variation. So if you want the teeth to be very small, you want a -1. You want the teeth to be very, very, very big, you're going to go to 1. So it just depends on what you like. So let's set it back to a 0. Right, perfect. All right, so when moving on to variation, you can see that you can make the teeth crooked. You can change the shape of the teeth, the shape of the gums, and so on. Going on to tooth spacing, you can change the variation like so. You can make them very, very, very close together, or very, very, very far apart. And again, you can adjust the variation if you like. The upper shift is primarily like the top, so you can see how it kind of moves the top to the left or right, making the smile appear somewhat crooked. Right, I'm going to go ahead and set that back to 0. Let's go to lower shift, and that is the same. You can have the bottom portion of the teeth appear crooked. The overbite will extend the top of the mouth, and it has to do with how much of the top area of your teeth cover the bottom teeth, so you can adjust that how you like. All right, the overjet creates some slight variations with the top teeth, making them not as perfect. If your character is elderly or you're building a zombie somewhat, you can wear down the teeth and the gums so that it looks very unhealthy and almost scary. With the polycanine, you can adjust the length, I believe, of the canine. And those are kind of like right here, so it's sometimes hard to see. You can also make the gums recede more, showing more teeth. or you can have them recede down, showing less. So if you want your character to have a very gummy type of smile and you don't want it to show so much teeth, then you'll probably set it to a 0.0. The narrowness, you can set how narrow you want the teeth to be, and this can affect the smile in many ways. Alright, so before we do the color, since we have our adjustments here, let's take a look at what this looks like. Now if you like the look and you're like, yep, that's what I want, we're going to go ahead and stop it and continue on. Alright, so now you can choose the tooth color, the gum color, and even plaque. You can choose the plaque amount as well as the jaw being open or closed. So let's go ahead and start with tooth color. So this is the default. And you can see it can go all the way to a very unhealthy yellow to a very dark, rotting color, and you can probably make that darker. So it's really great depending on what you're making. You can even choose the gum color and how light or dark you want it to be. Remember, V stands for your saturation. So once you find something that you like, let's go ahead and move on to plaque color. So you can choose very, very dark, grungy plaque to no plaque at all. And then reduce the plaque amount. If you do have plaque and you want it to show, you will of course increase the plaque amount, and you can see how it creates kind of a gradient effect on the teeth. This can add more realness to your character depending on the colors that you select. For instance, if you don't want the teeth to be perfectly white, then you could add a plaque color that's slightly off-white and adjust according to your needs. Let's see what that looks like. And that's not too bad. Now that you've done everything that you want with your teeth, let's go ahead and go to makeup. So with makeup, you can choose to apply foundation, and you can choose any color foundation you want. You can choose the intensity of the foundation and the roughness. Now again, the roughness works exactly the same. If you have zero roughness, then the surface will look more oily and a little bit more textured. And if you want it to look more natural, you might want somewhere in the middle. You can also add concealer and choose the amount as so. So you can see it kind of brings some light to the under eye area. So you can choose how strong you want it to be, and if you don't want any at all, just set it to 0. So let's take a look without the foundation and with it on. Very small difference, but you can see it definitely makes an impact. Now for this character, I really do not want a lot of eye makeup, but let's go ahead and go through it. You have so many different options. You can choose eyeliner, and there's different eyeshadow effects. Hopefully with another update, they'll be adding more, which would be pretty awesome. For this character, we're not going to add any eyeshadow, so let's go ahead and move on to blush. Alright, so once we move on to blush, you can see there's different options you can choose. And let's go ahead and set this color to something a little bit more natural. Alright, so you have different options that you can choose. You can choose it to be angled, just appear on the apples, have a low sweep, or a high curve. You should pick what best accentuates your character's features, but you can really just do anything you like. To better choose, you can increase the intensity just to see what it looks like. I think for this character, I may go with apples and lower the intensity a lot. So let's just go for that. All right, and that looks a lot more natural. Let's go ahead and move on to lips. So you can choose it to be bare, and there's different lip shapes as well. There's the Hollywood lip, and there's the Cupid lip. You can also set the transparency, which I think is great. So let's say you like the lip shape of the Hollywood lip, and you like that curved upper lip, then you can make it natural by decreasing the transparency for a more natural look. Alright, once you reach the color that you like, you can change the roughness. And this basically is the same thing. You can choose how matte you want it to be or how shiny. Alright, once we've done that, let's go ahead and take a look at how it's coming along. Again, keep in mind, nothing is a definite until you are ready and you are happy. If you see some changes you need to make along the way, be sure to do them. That's right. And coming up next, I'm going to be showing you how to use the tools to finish your character's facial features. I'm going to be working with the hair, the eyebrows, and everything. It's going to be really cool. Be sure to like and sub so you don't miss the next video. And if you do, you are the best. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.